Phil Mafah, is he the difference between success or failure? Let me reword that. Is he the difference between a potential playoff run and a rewind of the 2023 season? Folks, I'm so excited to be talking about Phil Mafah today. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. I am Brian. If you're new here, welcome. Hey, I hope you'll subscribe. If you like what I'm doing, I hope you'll subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. Pass along to your neighbors, your clergyman, your tax collector. Okay, scratch that last one. Don't mention me to them whatsoever. Anyway, so I told you a couple of weeks ago that I was actually putting together this video. Phil Mafah, is he the difference? And I pre-recorded it and everything. I'm going to tell you the camera I used to do my pre-records is amazing. It's beautiful. It makes everything look great. And then I started editing, and just to get to the point, something went wrong with it, and suddenly I wanted to scream. So I said, you know what? I told them that I'm going to be previewing Phil Mafah in this 2024 season, and I'm just going to go ahead and get to the point. So this is not going to be as pretty, as laid out, as entertaining as I'm not going to say that. But the point is, I believe, let the cat out of the bag, Phil Mafah is the difference. See, I've been a fan of this guy since he came to Clemson. Now, Phil Mafah, let's start from the beginning about Phil, okay? Phil comes to us from Loganville, Georgia. You're like, Brian, I don't know where Loganville is located. Loganville is conveniently nestled in between Atlanta and Athens. He comes out of, 6 or 7A Grayson High School. You're like, Grayson High School? That sounds familiar. Well, Grayson High School gave us Wayne Gallman. I think one of the best blocking backs we've ever had in the history of Clemson. It also gives us, here's some PTSD, put a bad taste in your mouth. You remember that whole Robert Gimdici saga, that craziness that went on? He ended up, leaving supposedly or decommitting because of his mama and going down there to play for Hugh Freeze and Prostitution U. Yeah, I remember that. That's where Robert Gimdici and his brother played as well. But Grayson High School is a big deal. Now, this is Phil at Grayson High School. It's him running the football. The guy came in. He was a part of that 2021 class. It was like top 7, top 5, according to 24/7 Sports. You're like, who was in the 2021 class? I'm glad you asked. Will Shipley was in that class. Tristan Lee was in that class. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Barrett Carter, Nate Wiggins. I could keep going, but I won't. So needless to say, Phil Mafah was a big deal coming out of high school. He was a 4-star, but he was not the biggest deal in that recruiting cycle, nor was he the biggest deal as far as running back with Will Shipley. Remember that whole recruiting process. Everybody's excited that he's coming to play for Clemson. Some people were saying he's the next Christian McCaffrey, and we know why that is. It definitely wasn't because I'm going to leave that alone. But I will tell you this. Phil got to, their names rhyme. Phil got to Clemson, and here's a blast from the past. Lynn J. Dixon was there, and Will Shipley was there, and Kobe Pace was there. So Phil was having to play second fiddle, but I immediately saw his potential as soon as he came into the Clemson program. Now, I can't show you the clip or else I'll get a nice copyright strike. But in the 2021 game, Florida State came to Clemson. Go look it up. I was at the game. I nudged my buddy and I said, hey, Mafah's in the game. Mafah, he saw the crease in the line on the left side. He busted through it, and the guy just kept running. And it took Florida State forever to get the guy down. This guy has been something special since he got there. Now, here's his numbers so far, 21, 22, and 23. Now, I want you to notice that in 2022, he averaged 5.3 per carry. But you get to 2023 when he had to carry the ball more than what he did in the prior years. Combined, he's averaging 5.4 per carry. He finished the season with 965 yards. Now, let's talk about 2023. I'm just going to recap it for a second. Most of you know this, but I think this sets up 2024 very, very well. Clemson's 4-4. The program seems to be falling apart. We have a coach arguing with some guy on the radio. We have fans questioning who's to blame. You have factions among the Clemson community. I couldn't even bring up certain topics or who was responsible for it, or else all of a sudden I became the Antichrist or the anti-Sweeney, whatever you want to call me. All the while, Phil Mafah takes over the team because Will, unfortunately, got hurt. Rushes for 186 yards off of 30-something carries? That was a solid Notre Dame team that he had beat. At that point, they had only lost one ball game. And Phil took over. Phil rushed well during the rest of the 2023 campaign. We know about the 4 touchdowns against Kentucky, running into the teeth of their defensive line, which Kentucky fans were more than happy to tell me I didn't know the Kentucky team. Kentucky'd. It was fun to beat them after, they had just a itty bit of success in that 2023 season. All of a sudden, Kentucky's beating their chest like they're big stuff. And Clemson played a questionable game and still beat them. Came back. I mean, they were down by 11 points, came back and beat them. So that was fine. Phil was the big reason for that because you had to have a big physical back. I mean, look at this run right here. If you look at Phil right here, the guy is fighting. This is a great picture of Phil. Look, a guy's got his ankles. You got a guy up top. You're like, Brian, he's falling. But to me, this is the embodiment of Phil Mafah. He'll lower his pads. He'll hit you. He'll initiate contact if he has to. And he may not be some speed demon, but Lord, at 6'1", 230, he's not slow. By the time you run him down, he's already done his damage. So it's 7 minutes and 30 seconds in. What does that even have to do with the 2024 season? Let me tell you, my friends, I'm glad you asked. I don't know if you heard or not, but Clemson's offensive line is suspect. Yes, we just hired Matt Luke, but Matt Luke's got his work cut out for him. I've said that several times. I don't expect this man to fix what's been broke, especially the past 2 years. And let's be honest, the last few years of Caldwell, things was not looking too well. Too well for Caldwell. Pun, passively intended. Then you have an offensive scheme that, well, we were in denial last spring game if that was actually our offense. And I even said, no, that's not our offense. It was our offense. We have a quarterback who I did a video just a couple of weeks ago. It's called, Is He a Bust? Is he a bust? Some of you say 100% he's a bust. Other of you say, hey, he's in a bad system. He needs more development. There's a few of you who even believes he was overrated coming out of high school. We have a wide receiver room that everybody is hoping that 2 freshmen right out of high school will be the difference in our wide receiver room. That's how far we have fell from wide receiver U to now wide receiver community college. No, I'm not knocking Tyler Brown. I'm not knocking Antonio Williams. And Stellato can't help that he's been injured a lot. But here's the truth. Are we wide receiver U like we used to be? The correct answer, even if you want to say yes, is no. A good defensive coordinator will stack the box and make Phil pay. But here's the thing about Phil. Phil has accomplished these numbers that you're looking at right now with an offense, especially in 2022 and 23, but you could argue 2021, because that was the year that DJ took over full time. And guess what? The wheels had already come off, and we were only 3 games into the season. They didn't fear the running game. Or let me rephrase that. They didn't fear the passing game, which made them want to stack the box more. Phil Mafah has run and ran, correct my grammar, ran behind an offensive line that at one moment blocks and the next minute they don't. The good thing about Phil Mafah, and the reason I believe he is the difference between success and failure, or plainly put, a rewind of the 2023 season, which by Clemson standards set up by Dabo Swinney himself is a failure. Or a playoff run, which, by the way, we don't have to get into 4 teams. We have to get into 12. It's triple the size. It's an easier road. The reason I believe he is the difference, or can be the difference, is because Phil has put up these numbers behind an offensive line that blocks every now and again, and a passing game that is questionable, and an offensive scheme that, even counting this year, some of you are going to get pissed at me for this, won't be the first time, won't be the last if you watch my videos, but behind a offensive scheme that's underwhelming. And he still did that. He's the guy that throws the team on his back. He's the guy that you give the ball to during rough yards. Look, what I mean by rough yards is they know you're getting the football. So you have a lot of these finesse guys, you know, they're finesse running backs, or maybe they're finesse slot receivers you run a wide receiver sweep to. They don't like to get hit. They do some dancing. If they hit a seam really fast, they can outrun everybody. But if it's someone who has to play behind a less than stellar offensive line, or a less than stellar offense, you're going to have to have a dog. You're going to have a someone who can get dirty, take the hard hits, throw the hard hits, and then if they get a seam just for half a second, they have the field vision to hit that hole and take off running. And I believe Phil Mafah is that guy based on what I've seen during this time. Now, as I said, I had a bunch of clips. I have clips from his freshman season, his sophomore season, obviously this season. And what's funny to me is that Phil Mafah is overlooked for his receiving skills. He's catching the ball out of the backfield. There was one play this season, and I cannot remember the team, but it was in Death Valley. The ball was thrown behind him. He came out of the backfield. It was thrown behind him. A defensive player was there. Not only could he hear the footsteps, the defensive player, if he was just a little quicker, could have taken Phil's head off. Did Phil drop the ball and go, man, I heard footsteps, or it was thrown behind me? No, Phil caught the football, folks. So my point here is that between Phil's running ability, obviously, and his less than talked about receiving ability, this guy is he will be, if we use him right, he will be the difference. Now, as I'm closing this video, I want to throw some ideas out there to you. How could we give Phil a chance to be more successful? That's the question we should all be asking. Instead of just running this guy to death, and God forbid he gets hurt, we should ask, how could we set him up for success? Or how could having him back there set up the rest of the team offensively for success? Quickly, Brenning Stool is still underused. He was the leading receiver in the Miami game this year that we blew a 10-point lead in. He's 6'6". He catches everything that's thrown to him. He's a machine. Well, they might know he's going to get the ball. Now, I'm going to name some big names here, but I'm just going to let you know that I believe Brenning Stool is a top tight end in the United States right now. You have to ask yourself, how did Georgia get the ball to Brock Bowers when everybody knew Brock Bowers was going to get the ball? How does the Kansas City Chiefs get the ball to Travis Kelce when everybody knows the ball's going to Travis Kelce? I mean, this is the NFL. Come on, y'all. You have to set them up for success. You have to give them a chance. You have to call plays that gives them a chance. Now, in doing that with the tight end, you have to respect the play calls, focus on him more. It gives Mafah more of a chance. As people are focusing on Mafah, they don't focus on the tight end as much. Then getting Antonio Williams, hopefully he'll be healthy and catch the ball a little better this year. Stellato, hopefully he'll be healthy. He catches everything that's around him. Hopefully, the freshman wide receivers come in and they just do a really solid job. They don't have to be world changers, but just come in and do a solid job. That opens up more of the field. That opens up more of the opportunity for Mafah, and then in return, these other guys. It takes some of the pressure off of Cade while we're still trying to figure out where he's at. So, folks, this could work out quite well, but I really believe that the piece of the offense that you can build the team around and possibly make it to the playoffs. I don't see a national championship. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that. I don't see that. But if you see Clemson be effective this season, if you see Clemson put 2023 behind them and come out and win games, I guarantee you it will be because of Phil Mafah. Folks, tell me where I'm wrong. I'd like to hear it. Now, be specific. Don't go, you're just crazy. No, give me, if you think I'm crazy, at least specifically tell me why I'm crazy other than I'm an idiot. Like, be specific. Break it down for me. If I'm right and you agree with me, let me know. Be specific. If you're somewhere in between and you don't know, I'd love to hear your comment. Folks, please pass this video along to all your friends and neighbors who are Clemson fans or even hate Clemson. Heck, they could even hate me. Check it out. Pass it along. Also, if you want to support the channel on a monthly basis, we have a join button below the video, $3 or $5 per month. You might not see it on an Apple product, but you can do that. Or simply subscribe. It's free if you enjoy what I'm doing. Folks, I appreciate you being here. As always, I look forward to talking to you. Good or bad, mid, post, pre, off season, it's always good to be a Tiger.